Oh no, please don't send a picture of me as your proof that you were here.
Yeah, I know, but I want to have fun.
Oh yeah, this is more.
Got less than a minute. Never. Okay, hi guys. Let's just go ahead and get started. I hope you're here for learning how to break into, enter into stuff. If not, you're in the wrong room. I have a lot of disclaimers. I apologize. My employer and my university do not contribute to this research or support it in any way. This does not reflect them. They're not a part of this, and all of the actions that I did take in this research and the actions of my volunteers were not unauthorized access. We were permitted, so just as a clarification. However, this research does reflect my research institute, which is Purdue Homeland Security Institute. If at any time you hate what I've said, or you're super critical of it, or you have a security concern, please email that email address right there. It goes to my academic chair, aka think of that guy as the guy who controls my entire life, because he does. So go ahead and reach out to him if you are concerned with anything that I have said. So in this talk, I am going to share with you how I break and enter into large event venues and how some of my volunteers have done so as well. But I'm kind of over the talks that just tell you, look at the cool things that I did. So slides that are in blue are going to provide solutions or the reasons why what I'm doing is working so that we can actually make things better. So they'll look like this. Also, I have a lot of information to share in the span of 50 minutes, so there will be content on the slides that I don't get to. If people care, I'll put them on the internet, okay? So, hi, I'm Alissa. Some of you know me as dnsprincess, and that's cool. I do a lot of things. Obviously, I go to school. I have a job, like a real job. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm doing all of this just so I can be that like really crazy professor that like does weird things. I don't take myself too seriously, but I take my research pretty seriously. So these are all the people that I'm just trying to be in life. But I don't like talking about myself, so here's pictures of my dog because he's like the most interesting part, right? So, okay, I've been breaking and entering for a long time. This specific research that you're seeing, I'm on year 4 of doing it, but I've been doing it outside of this specific research set for longer than that. When I was a kid, my friend Lorraine and I would lock ourselves out of her house and break back into it for fun because we're in Indiana and there's nothing to do. Her mom wasn't really thrilled by that idea, but yeah, I love breaking and entering. And I'm not the only one who did this. The slide says 200, and as of this week, we have now reached over 300 interactions with this venue. So volunteers who have helped me do this before, who have done the breaking and entering research, you can raise your hands. I'd like to remind you that their lawyers are way better than any lawyer you could ever get. So if you do ask my volunteers about what their experiences are like, remember, they can't disclose any information about the venue or they will get super sued. So, why large event venues? I've heard a lot of stories about people breaking and entering into office buildings. I've done that myself. It's cool, it's great, but I found large event venues to be more of a challenge and way more interesting, especially for like a GrrCON talk, right? So, there are higher value targets, and that can be objects and people. Think famous people, right? These people are people that you're not going to necessarily encounter in an office building. Additionally, we have a lot of transient employment in large event venues. You guys might have done it maybe when you were a kid, volunteered at a concession stand to, raise money for something, right? And these are all unauthenticated, non-badged, non-identified people in your building. And I love that. So, I picked large event venues for this reason. They're super fun, and that's what I'm going to talk about. A lot of what I'm speaking about, though, can be applied to your typical business or office, whatever it may be. Gary here is going to help me out to give you some information, so you can say hi to Gary. Let's start. You're going to have to start doing recon, right? Everyone knows how to do recon, and I'm not here to reinvent the wheel to tell you how to do that. OSINT is a very well-covered topic in this community. I can recommend to you, like, 50 people who can do that, so I'm going to try not to repeat things. Here's what you definitely need to know about what you're about to break and enter into before you start. Phone numbers and names are way more important than you can imagine. You're going to keep these down and put them in your phone. It's not enough to be like, look at all these cool phone numbers I found online that say do not publish online, right? That's cool. You're going to need that. Hold on to it. I'll tell you what to do with it later. You need to find security policies, and these are very easy. Venues are in the business of making money. They want to sell packages, wedding packages, catering, all sorts of stuff. So they're going to put their security procedures as a sales pitch online, and they do it all the time. So you're going to look that up. You're going to look information about their cameras. I mean, this is 2019. We put a camera basically everywhere, right? But not all cameras are the same. And you're going to go ahead and look up things like maps and loading docks. We'll talk about doors in a little bit, but loading docks are basically the best doors you can pick. Now, a fun thing that a lot of you probably haven't considered when doing reconnaissance are permits. These buildings need permits to hold events that are outside of their regular fare. So let's say, for example, you're trying to break into like a sporting arena. Their sports events probably don't need a permit, but when they host that really gnarly monster truck show, they're going to have to file a permit with your local government, whether that be the city, the county. It does depend on what state you're in. These permits give out crazy amounts of information. So these are what you should look for next. If you haven't done any like Google Dorks or anything, here are some suggestions for you. The only one I really want to point out is target name Coca-Cola is the most effective one I've found. Granted, I've done this on venues that do and don't have Coca-Cola as a vendor. It seems that a lot of their information about like marketing and delivery is included online, so that's a fun one I think you should try. Here's an example of some information I found. Now, fun enough, I found this when I started, writing and researching this talk months ago, but I didn't take a picture of it. And so I had to go back to take a picture for these slides, right? Well, the problem was, they no longer existed. They were no longer available publicly on the internet. That venue learned their lesson. Great job. I'd like to remind you, if that's not the venue that I did, okay? But I still found it, right? And I'll address that. So here's mentioning about loading docks. It's talking about moving in, moving out time. That might not be specific, but knowing how your loading dock works, if you need a key card or a code or anything like that, is going to be wildly helpful. So, and yes, I just had a metal piece fall out of my back. So, why does this work? Venues frequently put this information online, like I said, to make money. They want to make money and try to get everything that they can to get you to buy their product before you even contact them. Don't. Right? It's great if you post your packages about how much it's going to cost to feed 500 people. You don't need to put that your security cameras aren't monitored, and if they are, you have to pay extra. You should never put that online. And additionally, if your information is then taken offline, I could still find it on Google. We all know Google Cache exists, the Wayback Machine, archive.org. You're going to have to petition your search engine of choice to remove this information. Right? So if this is you and you have this information online, it is going to take way more work if it's been indexed by a search engine. So now you're outside of your building. Let's say you've done all your research you possibly can and you're outside. So let's talk about evading cameras. I put the Shodan logo on here because, again, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I hope you all know how to use Shodan. Shodan is a place that I start to see what kind of cameras places have. You want to know what type of camera, and I'll go through a list and describe types of cameras. I don't mean models. You don't need to go that specific. You just need to know what blind spots are available and how often those cameras are being looked at and how often they're taking pictures. So here's a picture of a building on my campus. It's, a building that is being built. And it has this nice little time lapse because it's a still image camera. It's not a live feed. Somehow, even though this camera is only taking pictures on the 50-minute mark of the hour, some dumb kids still got caught breaking in here because they couldn't not get caught on a camera for 2 seconds. But that's fun. So about this camera, because it's taking stills at a mark that you can try to ascertain, So you're looking at these timestamps. It's an old school James Bond movie at this point. Synchronize your watch. Don't get caught. These cameras are often selected because they are cheap. They don't have a lot of data to store because they're not storing full video. They're not storing a ton of images. And they're mostly just there to look pretty, to show people. This is a publicly accessible camera, so that's why I picked it, of a really fun building. So you're going to have cameras that are recorded and monitored, or neither. You could have false cameras. You can have cameras that they only go back to. Ask yourself, do you really care if you're on camera? Heads up, I don't. I don't care. If I'm doing everything correctly inside of the building, you will never know that I'm there. So you're not going to go back to those cameras and review them. The only time I particularly care about cameras is if there is live monitoring, which I am sometimes willing to risk. I would recommend that if you are worried if your cameras are being live monitored, is to look at the security policy of that building. If you must, take those fun phone numbers from earlier, give Mr. Important Boss Man a call, and demand that you know how secure this venue is before you step foot in it. Not as yourself, but as a vendor, a client, whatever you want. They will easily tell you and try to puff out their chest about how important their security is, giving you all the information to make themselves sound important. Now, where I live, over the bridge in West Lafayette, we are allowed to have false cameras. I've worked at a place that had false cameras and people reported a theft, and I had to unfortunately, sadly tell them they're not real. But in Lafayette, just, a mile away, false cameras are completely illegal. They can't have any of them. You cannot have them in public business. You cannot have them in a public area. They must be real cameras. Knowing if where you're living allows you to have false cameras or not will help you determine if you're at greater risk. I am more nervous, obviously, in a place that doesn't allow false cameras. But it's up to you. So you have these cameras. I would not push, if you are a venue owner or anything, for longer recording time. Monitoring is way more valuable, that live interaction. Because again, if I'm doing my job right, you're not going to go look at those cameras in the first place. So if you could afford to have live monitoring, go ahead and do so. How frequently are you going to review those cameras? If you only have enough data to store 72 hours worth of camera time, who's actually going to go back and look at it every 72 hours? If someone's not doing that, then you're losing the data that you're recording anyway, and your camera is basically useless. I'd also like to friendly remind you that if you're for some reason going to connect your camera to the internet, you must put it on a private network. We all know how Shodan works, right? Because these cameras are publicly accessible. You don't need that. It takes, 30 seconds to get on a VPN, or I don't know, Cisco, any connected could take an hour, who cares? But right? Get on a VPN. It does not need to be on a publicly accessible network. So now you're going to look for doors. I love doors. You are going to look for doors outside of your venue to walk in. I test my venue by smuggling in objects a lot. I mean, like a lot of them. So I'm going to go through the front door, and we're going to talk about that later. But if you're trying to not get caught, you're going to look for a side door. How can you tell in a giant building with many, many, many doors which door is the right door for you? You're going to look for doors that are worn down. Hand oil on people's hands, like your skin, everyone has it, don't be grossed out, is going to wear down handles for doors. It's going to smudge them up. It's going to be evident that they're more used, right? With kick plates, the kick plates is like the lower part of the door, like 6 inches from the bottom, right? That area is going to get used and abused every time a cart comes in, every time someone's kicking it open. The more used and abused the door, the more often people go through it. Why does that matter? It's likely employees. I've never seen a customer of a venue going to a concert and being like, yeah, a door, kick, right? That doesn't happen. So it's the people actually working there. And if it's the people actually working there and there's not a badge reader outside, you can bet it's probably unlocked. So, if you're going to look for a door, you're not going to look for a door that's all nice and pristine, and you're not going to look for a door with words on it, because no one labels their doors like, here's all the good stuff, the back entrance no one knows about, right? No one does that. If this door is locked, I wouldn't recommend this door be the one that you pick or shim. Someone might be behind that door and super, super, super mad at you. You should also consider just waiting, right? Because if you wait, like Tim and I saw yesterday, there just might be a door propped open with a switch for some reason. Outside, just open, just nicely cracked. go through that door, right? Opportunities present themselves in funny ways. So again, why does this work? If you're not going to have some actual security behind that door, again, locking it could probably prohibit, workflow. If you're carrying in like big trucks of merchandise through a door, it's going to be a pain in the butt to lock it all the time. You're probably going to want to have someone behind it. If not, at least make the door less accessible for someone like me, right? Keep it up, make it clean, look like that nice pristine door that no one ever uses. Try to remove those indicators that I mentioned. So you're going to ask yourself a couple of questions. Do you want to break into a locked door? And again, this is a door outside. Most of the time, I don't recommend that. Lockpicking, unless you've practiced it for a super long time, I'm going to guess it's going to take most people 30 seconds or more. It's often not worth it because these places have so many entrances. If you do want to break into that door, just make sure that you examine the door for any sensors. I know not everyone has magnets implanted in their hands, so feel for the magnetic sensors. Carry one of those rare earth magnets in your pocket, Just grab one of those, put it in. If your door is metallic in itself, oops, sorry, you can't use that trick. I've seen people use lasers. I've seen people use canned air, all sorts of stuff to look for these. Again, do your best. So, there's probably a better option than that door. It's a loading dock. A loading dock is huge. They are meant to fit semis, ambulances, especially, like I said, there are really, really important people at these venues sometimes. When they're there, I guarantee you there is an ambulance under wherever you are, right? These are left open and are meant for easy removal and access. You're going to walk through the most giant door possible like you're a little Ant-Man. So, do you need to be hidden by security 100% of the time? No. This is not like an office building where every single person has a name tag and a badge, right? I don't have to prove that I work there. I can be whoever the heck I want. So, do I have to be there all the time? No. Also, security and law enforcement presence doesn't necessarily always help. I'm about to show you a statistic from my research that I've done over time, and I want you to take it with more than a grain of salt, right? I'm continuing to do this research over the years. One of the reasons is because I'm trying to explain this variable. So my volunteers actually have to fill out an assessment while they're going through the venue on their phones. And like I said, I have over 300 for that now, different interactions, and that's different people, right? A lot of people do them multiple times. And I had a variable called attempt success, which is, did you break into the thing that you said you were going to? Like the super secret room or whatever, right? When they did, this variable, officers visible, is a variable that I asked, hey, can you see law enforcement officers outside of the venue? These are for only seeing them outside, not inside. So not inside and outside, not just inside, right? Just outside. So what's this fancy graph say? It says that when officers are present only outside, the attempt success of my volunteers went up 5 times. Right? So, reconsider that. Now let's go ahead and walk into the building. I will let you guys know I love metal detectors. In fact, I considered giving this talk on just metal detectors, but I thought you all would get bored, because I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that loves them to this degree. We have 2 types of metal detectors that you're going to walk through. We have walk-through metal detectors, like the name says, and we have hand wands, also abbreviated really annoyingly handheld metal detectors. These are pretty great, and they work very, very, very differently. Your decision-making is going to be judged based on how these work. So, if you think you could force a false negative, which I do, go ahead and try to walk through the walk-through metal detector. If you want to force a false positive, or you have a false flag on you, you're going to go with the hand wand. The hand wand is not a great tool, and I'll be demonstrating that for you guys today so you could take a look and just see how awful it is. So we're going to make those decisions. How do you know if you can make that false positive or false negative? You're going to ask yourself these questions. What are you trying to smuggle in? Is it prohibited and non-ferrous? What's prohibited and non-ferrous, you might ask? A lot of venues prevent you bringing in things like beach balls. If you guys went to GrrCON this year, you might know why beach balls are prohibited. Maybe because they destroyed 7 ceiling tiles, right? So, those things aren't going to get caught through a metal detector. You don't want security to look at you more than they have to. You're going to put that on your person. No one here is in here to smuggle beach balls, so let's talk about the things that matter. They're probably ferrous or ferrous type, which just means that they themselves are magnetic or have metallic properties. And depending on how you put them on your body will depend if you can make a false positive or not. So, for example, this fun thing that keeps falling out of my back because I can't strap it to myself because I was going to take off my clothes for you all. No, not really. Is an object that has a very large surface area and is metallic, and when actually wanded, when it's in my back, very, very difficult to find because of how far it's spread out. I had the pleasure of having a walk-through metal detector for like 6 months in my research lab. And by the way, if any of you have a spare walk-through metal detector and would like to rehome it to a really deserving researcher, I'd be very, very happy if you helped me out. Okay? Anyway, we had a huge box of knives and weapons and stuff, and we would practice smuggling them through the walk-through metal detector. And one thing that we found was that when you can increase the surface area of the object, it was much, much easier to sneak through. And I'll show you an image of why that works. But let's talk about handheld false positives first. A proper handheld wand is supposed to be used in a very, very specific way, and I guarantee you no one does it right. Imagine you have one of those child's water wings on the actual paddle part of the metal detector. That water wing should be touching the person's skin. Can you actually use a water wing? No, it will interfere, it won't work. But why I say that is because you have to scan the person 2 to 6 inches away from their body. Anything closer than 2 inches is a false positive. You're going to get things that are not metallic at all that will set it off. It's not effective. So, how can you force a handheld metal detector false positive? By when the security person goes to scan you, by you moving it closer to the hand wand, which do it slowly enough so they don't really see it, you will annoy them and wear them down. Your goal here is for them either to say, oh, your belt is what's setting it off, or for them to just give up because they don't want to screen you anymore. Both have worked very effectively for me. I went to a baby metal concert recently, dressed in black and a lot of metallic chains, and I looked at the security woman and she looked at me and I'm like, I'm not making it through that metal detector. I'm just not. And she decided, yeah, you know what, you're not. You're gonna pat down, just completely removing the metal detector in the first place. So if you can pull that kind of move and never get scanned, I highly recommend it. Let's talk about how hand wands work. This is an old image of a very, very old metal detector that's walked through, but we don't use them anymore. So we're just gonna pretend like it's the same picture but for a hand wand, okay? That paddle is going to have 2 different coils, a sending and receiving coil. The sending coil will try to obviously send current to the receiving coil, and when it is interrupted, there is an audio module inside of the hand wand to set it off and make a really, really annoying noise. The thing about hand wands is you cannot adjust the level of them. They work or they don't. There's no way to increase the strength, dumb it down, none of that. It's pretty basic, and that basic utility is easily exploitable. Now, to create a walk-through metal detector false positive, you have to know how they work pretty intimately. I know not everyone has the ability to take one of these home with them, so let me try to explain. You still have that sending and receiving coil on the panels of the metal detector, but you have many, many other things to go up against. 1, metal detectors have sensitivity. Everything from we're not letting anything in but a big aluminum box to the foil of a toothpaste like container. You know, like when you buy toothpaste, you have to peel off that little metallic foil. They can catch that. Do metal detectors ever get set this high? Really only in prison. So I'm not here to help you break out of prison. You can come to my next con talk when I talk about that, okay? So, walk-through metal detectors are now multi-zoned, and frequently they are the kind that are here on the right. Sometimes the cheaper ones are like the one in the middle. The whole point of multi-zoning is to try to give the security personnel an idea of where the object is that they're supposed to get for you. But here's the problem with them. Not all the zones are created equal. This is actually a zone for the metal detector that I have. There are overlapping zones, so in total there are 33. The ones that are around here and here, so that's going to be everything from zone 2.5 to 4, are different than the zones higher or lower on your body. Higher up, it's going to be more sensitive. The ability to let the metal go is not going to be there. For some people in my research lab, when we were trying to get stuff through metal detectors, they found the most effective place to put stuff was on their sides, like their hips. That wasn't the case for me. Mine was the lower back. It changes for everyone. But if you're going to try to smuggle things through, put it in the more dense part of your body. Your hips and your femurs are like really big bones, so you're going to try to put them there. Additionally, many walk-through metal detectors remove zone 6, which is this bottom one here, because if that metal detector is on concrete flooring, that concrete flooring is most likely made with rebar in it, which is metal, which they have to negate. Now, this isn't always the case. Zone 6, when active, is supposed to touch the floor, but it frequently doesn't scan the bottom 2 inches because those metal detectors are on casters, right? So if you are able to put something at the very, very bottom of your shoe, you could try that as well. We've gotten in everything from box cutters, small objects, to entire smartphones by putting them in the bottom of your shoe. Yes, this is why the airport asks you to take your shoes off. Because venues are in the business of making money, they likely aren't going to have everyone do that. So, in order to show you how this works, I'm going to need a security guard to help me. So everyone is going to welcome my very trusty security guard, Tim. I promise you, he is the perfect security guard. He's fantastic. Hi, Tim. Hi. Now, Tim, just so you know, I am wearing this microphone. It's going to set off that microphone. So we're gonna figure it out. Their microphone. Sorry about the noise. Okie dokie. Yeah! Okay. So, Tim, I've asked Tim, I've told Tim, Tim's actually one of the volunteers who's done this before. I'd like to remind you that all of my volunteers are highly skilled and very employable, but not him. I need him, so move away. All right, Tim, could you be a typical security guard at our venue, please? Just for a second. He has now paid attention. Now, Tim, I'm going to hold this microphone in my hand. This should surprise none of you that, can we show them? It's going to set it off, all right? So, could you run me down like I'm going to a concert, please? It hit on you and not on me. Yeah, that's about how that works. And Tim did that because at more than one venue that I went to, that was their screening method. You could probably already figure out how that was terrible. So can we try again? Tim's touching me. He should not be touching me. First off, this should create wild false positives. I have still many, many, many metallic objects on my person at the moment. And so that should have worked, and yet it didn't. Now, Tim, can we please attempt to not piss off Gary anymore and try to do it the way that it is prescribed by the Department of Homeland Security? Do you see how this is taking forever? No one does this. It's also still not working, okay? Look, I know that this came out, but this is like the easiest thing to actually hide. So like I said, I was going to strap it to me like I normally would, but I'm not taking off my clothes for all of you. It is itself Ferris, but I still have a lot more. So could you please do it the way that I actually recommend to do it? He's doing it like he is before, but there's going to be a change here in a second. Oh.
Do you have steel-toed boots?
Yeah, I do. Thanks. I don't have steel-toed boots on. Why is it not hitting the microphone?
I don't know.
Neat. Oh, hey, my badge.
Bigger boots.
The boots again. Fun part is he's not even hitting on the boots where the actual weapons are. So, I like raking a lot more than picking when I have to be fast, so I keep a bag of rakes with me. There's also, by the way, this is an example of something that you shouldn't try to smuggle through. The one thing that I actually have difficulty getting in are chains because they're so dense. We've got lock picks. I've got a knife at the bottom of my boot, which I'll take off at the end for people who want to call my bluff. And for when I actually need to open doors, I have this very giant shim. None of that. What Tim picked up on scanning my boots were the little D rings on the back of it, so I could fold my boots down and be cute. But fashion is not a crime, and he didn't find it. So, thank you for being a great security guard, Tim. You know what? I might just keep this handheld mic. We'll try it out. Oh, quick fact. Here, Tim, give me that little hand wand back. So, if you guys haven't met me before, I have a lot of things implanted in me. I have 4 magnets and a various range of chips. And when people ask me about biohacking, they frequently ask, what about metal detectors? Is that going to help for airport security? No. I've never been like on the other side of prison, so I guess I don't know if that would actually matter for them. But even for metal detectors, in order to create that to go off, I have many chips in both hands. To set it off, you're going to have to get in false positive range, and I use that on purpose to force false positives, because people look at your hands and are like, there's nothing there. It's not going to trip a walk-through metal detector. That's not how walk-through metal detectors work. The zoning won't pick it up in your hands. So, in order to get it through the hand wand, you're going to have to put your hand closer than 2 inches to the actual hand wand. But for walk-through metal detectors, the answer is no. So for everyone who's wanted to implant lights under their skin, get a ton of magnets, hey, security guard, you dropped your shit. For everyone who's ever wanted to do that, it's not going to matter. If you have more questions about biohacking and security procedures, you can tweet me at dnsprincess, okay? Why does this work? The levels of those walk-through metal detectors, which I promise I would have for you if I could, so please rehome one to me. They're usually set very low. How do you know, as a penetration tester, that they're set low? Look at signage. These venues typically say, these things can stay in your pocket, and these things can't. If coins and keys are allowed to stay in your pocket, your event level is set anywhere from 145 to 185. This is too low. I've tried to tell my venue that. I've tried to tell a lot of venues that. I told one venue that. I have one venue that I did that is much, 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 much bigger than the one that I'm researching here. And their security practices are so terrible, and they took none of my feedback, that I don't go there anymore. So these levels are set poorly and way too low and are poorly calibrated. Also, they're not the most secure things on the face of the planet, but you're going to have to donate me a metal detector to find out, okay? So, security personnel get worn down very, very easy. They are easy to manipulate. They are getting paid what? $9 an hour? They don't really care. So, even if their people are doing it correctly, let's say half of your staff is actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, it doesn't matter. Let me show you some cool data I got. So these are a bunch of variables that I got from my research, and what this fancy chart is trying to tell you is these top 2. Ignore the like rows past the top 2. Okay, we only care about the top 2 right now. We have attempt. So did you attempt to break into stuff? And attempt success. Was it successful? It came back with a relationship with 3 of my variables. Were they using the walk-through metal detectors properly? It should be no shock to you that when the walk-through metal detector screeners aren't doing their job, that it's not being done properly. Like, and you're going to get through, right? That seems obvious. The variable next to it is lane consistency, which basically says that if the security practitioners that are there aren't doing the same things as each other, they aren't mimicking the same stuff. Some of them seem serious, some of them don't, some of them seem lax. Just that consistently is significantly related to my 2 variables. The negative in here means that the less consistent they are, the more easy it is to break and enter and for that attempt success. It didn't matter if my volunteer or I went through the good metal detector screening. Simply the inconsistencies made it more successful. And again, I had that officer's visible variable. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole until I've done this research for like 3 more years, okay? So, let's get in further. You're now past security, or you picked the right door, or you still have this box cutter in your boot that kind of hurts, but you did it anyway. Right? So, how do you know where you're going? Those venues, I told you, they're in the business of making money. This is not my client. I picked it because we're all here right now, okay? So, this is a really, really nice, very in detailed map of where we are right now. All the rooms, all the doors, all the entrances, and all the emergency entrances. Keep this with you, okay? Next, you're going to have to set yourself some goals. You need to get out of sight from security if you just especially threw them a false flag. They're already a little upset with you, you're going to go. Even if you walked through the employee entrance, you're still going to want to, ooh, thank you, new mic, because this one's going to die.
That one's dying on you.
Yeah. So, well, let me change this out for a second. Oh, this is going to sound bad. Hello? Maybe? The new mic? Hey. Hey! No. Anyway. Now both of them don't work. Okay, this one's fine. I'll let them turn this on, and when it makes an annoying noise, I'm sorry. So, I put down bathrooms. I go to the bathroom usually to take off all the gear that I just smuggled in because it can be kind of difficult. But one time, I picked a unisex bathroom on a floor that the public isn't supposed to get to. There's a whole floor of this place. No one from the public should be. And I was there, honestly, to use the bathroom. And I noticed there were hangers on the floor, the kind that you get from Walmart. Ooh, is this working now? Let's try it. Oh, heck yeah. So, I was in there, and I saw these hangers on the floor, which gave me the idea that someone obviously just changed their clothing. Who changes their clothing at a venue like that on a restricted floor? Personnel. And when I was there, I looked around on top of this sanitary napkin container. I put my hand up. A badge. Not just a badge. Not just any other badge, because I can fake those, right? I can fake an employee badge. No. This was a security badge to open all the doors in the venue. All of them. It was an all-access badge. That was so bad, I considered, is this even in my scope? I called for a backup because it was that terrible. So bathrooms, I guess, are a little bit more fun. Honestly, though, I'm going to recommend that you look for an office or a conference room next, okay? Somewhere with a phone, somewhere with internet, and somewhere where you can do stuff. I'll get to the whole internet thing in a second. But here are lots of other areas that you can hide and go look for. You're going to claim this space as your own and use it as an asset, okay? So, how do you identify what's behind that door? If you've had the pleasure of talking to me for more than 2 hours, you'll probably know that I'm a super shill for Wiggle. When I say that, hashtag not sponsored, hashtag I wish I was. Trust me, I'll do anything for Wiggle. It's a war driving platform. It maps Wi-Fi on maps. How is this going to help you? We're not going to use it for its purpose. We're actually going to look for devices. So everyone and their mom these days has a fitness band, a smartphone, a printer. HP printers set off the best wireless networks, at least for war driving for me. So I specifically mentioned them, and then other stupid printers. All printers are stupid, but we have all these things. My desk from IKEA is Bluetooth too. So there's Bluetooth in literally everything. So I stood outside of a door that I knew would have people behind it, and I turned off Wi-Fi, and it looked like this, right? I could see 5 Bluetooth devices. Now, I asked him, who is now, I don't know, somewhere been a security guard because he's a great security person and definitely staying where he's supposed to be. Galaxy S10 Plus, you put on your Bluetooth, it shows up immediately. I wonder what's all in this room right hecking now. If any of you, I'm giving you a whole second to turn off your shit. Oh, too late. Oh, wow. Hey, I see your Galaxy S10, Tim. Let's see, a gear, 2 gears, desktops, Bose Sport. Ooh, who has a Bose Sport? Is that nice? I've been thinking about getting new stuff. Thank you for personally naming your phones your own name so I can call out your name when I need to, because that's super helpful as well. So, you're not going to use Wiggle for its regular purpose. You're not going to get any GPS stuff, but it is going to give you a very good idea of what's in close range of you. Bluetooth is a shortwave communication, right? It's not like Wi-Fi. It's not like 2.4 that can, like, if you really, really wanted it to, go a couple miles, get a really nice antenna. Bluetooth is kind of crappy. So you're going to have to be in close proximity. If you see a room with printers and no people, give it a try. Go in. Okay? Let's just assume wherever you picked, you now have your hiding spot. You have a good place to go. You're going to pull out your tools and toys, and you're going to pick your assets. Your assets are the following: people, information, gear, and access. Access is anything that can get you a pass. Many times, these desk people, administrators, will have visitor and guest passes with them, or some sort of template. You're going to grab that. You're also going to grab any gear you might think might be particularly useful, any information at all, so you can drop it to the next person who asks. Grab that clipboard with important stuff. You're Mr. Important Person now, okay? And any gear that you might need. Keys. Wallets. Here's a whole list. I'll just look at this list. These are all the things that you want to try to grab, okay? And they could be there. Surprisingly, just having that stuff adds your credibility. Take that letterhead, take that business card, be careful. If you're taking the business card of an important person who's in that building, it's likely that they've seen them. So try to find someone that they collected. Look in their desk for that pile of business cards they never actually imported into their phone. You're that person now. So, about those phone numbers. I hope that you're in a place with, Ethernet, a phone, something, maybe not, right? You're going to try to use these things to continue further, and you're going to use those phone numbers in a helpful way. So, you found some phone numbers. I know we all know how, or at least know how to Google how to spoof a phone number, and that's great, but does it take more than 30 seconds of my time? Yeah, so I'm not going to do it, right? I'm trying to get things done in a reasonable manner. So, what you're going to do is you're going to call one of those phone numbers that you found. Right? Pick something not particularly helpful, like procurement. Or maybe procurement's great for you, who knows? Call them. Say, oh no, I misdialed by mistake. Can you transfer me to Bob, John, the head of security? Right? Can you transfer me there? Right? The target will see the incoming call from the phone number that just called in, okay? So they're going to see that their coworker called them, not that you called them. This is much faster and more efficient. If you're going to go through the trouble of spoofing their phone number, fine, but we have a lot of controls in place for that now, so make it easy on yourself. With those phone numbers, you're going to call places that you want to know are occupied or not. Let's say, for example, you're breaking into a concert hall, the box office. You're going to call the box office and see if anyone is there. You're also going to call the attention of any people targets. So again, high C-level people that you're trying to get to. Call them, see if they're there, if they're in their room. That's why you're using your phones, okay? And when you call them, at least have a reasonable excuse. I'm not here to teach you how to socially engineer, so come up with that on your own. But do you need a quick distraction and credibility? Let me show you a way to be a total jerk and get both of those things. So, you found an office or a conference room, and you're in luck. You're gonna get some pad jacks. You know what pad jacks are? They look like this. My friend Brock bought like 500 for, 2 cents on eBay. So, you're gonna grab them, and you're gonna plug them into an Ethernet port. And in fact, try to plug them into all of them. It's really annoying. You're gonna call security, aka, or the head of IT, or whomever else, and you are going to harness your inner Karen, okay? If you have to get the haircut to pull it off, get the Karen haircut. Harness Karen. Complain. Be upset, right? You need to tell them to remove them immediately. Have any of you tried to remove a pad jack? You have to use like big, thick wire cutters, okay? Security and IT, or whoever shows up, is not going to really question why you're there because you're complaining and they're going to try to make you happy. But also, It gains credibility because who the heck goes to a concert or a movie or I don't know, whatever fun people do? Who goes to that and then complains about an Ethernet port being plugged up? I've used this twice. Very fun. Don't do it too often because then they'll just get an actual utility to cut pad jacks. So, why does all of this work? People don't like to answer numbers they don't recognize. It's pretty obvious. I don't like to answer my phone when I do recognize the people. So, having that amount of credibility in your name will help. What do you do if you're that person who gets the call? Like, hey, can you transfer me to Steve? Ask why, who they are. Your best way to prevent what I just told you is to have the person that you targeted for transfer actually authenticate who you are before you make the transfer. Many people won't. I've actually seen hotels put little placards in their hotels warning about this exact scam. But instead they're trying to confirm your reservation number with your credit card and they're taking your credit card, right? So, ask questions. So you want to remove that immediate trust, okay? You're going to proceed with your engagement now. You have some steps. I hope that you've come there for a reason. If you're not a criminal, you probably have a reason to be at your engagement. I'm not here to help you do crime. Take pictures and audio if they're in scope. This helped me a lot with writing reports because again, if you're just there to break and enter and you're not writing a report, first off, I don't know why you're hired, but also you're not going to get paid. Pace it out. I know everything I've said sounds like a mission rush to get it all done. This is a big mistake I've noticed a lot of my volunteers make. Smoothing everything out and having a reasonable pace does make the engagement easier and keeps you out of sight. So go ahead and give that a try. If you feel like security is starting to watch you, go back to that hideout place, do whatever you're doing there, and wait. Okay? So, hopefully you have some target goals. If you don't, here's a list of some that I recommend to you. Obviously, getting into a target area, fun. Getting personal information about famous people, fun, and they hate that. Please make sure that that's in your scope. Do never contact them. You're never going to contact that target famous person ever, right? You're gaining it for a purpose. They, again, also have super fancy, very expensive lawyers, so you're never going to do that. You're probably there for compliance. That's probably why they have you. So, hopefully you have that as a goal. Obtaining objects, letterheads, badges, IDs, keys, stuff like that. So that's what you're here for. And then smuggling objects into the building is obviously a super fun one that I like because...
What are you doing here? Not supposed to be here.
Yeah, I'm not.
Sorry to interrupt. We need...
Okay,
Go.
so security now has decided to take you away. There are many doors into this building. Oh, hey, wait, security man. You forgot. I'm so sorry. Here, this is what you actually were looking for, right? I have more than once told security guard, I pulled a knife out of my pocket and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm walking around with this. Here you go. I'll leave. And I do leave. I go back to my car. Sometimes I go get a slushie, come back, and then I go through another door. The engagement's not over. It's a big place. Apologize for your mistake, walk out, be the most polite Girl Scout that you could ever be, and then go back in. So, if you can, give them a prohibited object or something of theirs, like a name tag because they leave their security room with their uniforms and name tags open, so you grabbed a couple. Give that back. Why? Because they'll think that you're just giving up, but you're not. So find a new door, go in. Place your goals in order. Orient them to the hiding place. You now have a map, put that on the map. Orient your goals appropriately. Avoid these things. Do not attempt to be a non-venue service worker. Do not attempt to be the network engineer that's coming in with cables and looking official. I'm sure that you can. Do not. They do not do this during their operating hours. These are off-hour things. Do not stay in one place for too long. Do not talk to those famous people. And mind your scope. So some other things that you can do, eat their food. They give out free food to executives and stuff all the time. Why are you doing that? Because it's free food. Also, you're doing that because when you eat, the amount of cortisol in your brain lowers. You're literally tricking your body into thinking that you're in a safe environment, and you're going to lower your stress and be more confident. You're also going to slow down a little bit afterwards. It's going to help you. And then make friends of non-staff so you can yell at them later and be like, hey, Charlie, how are the kids? And you're there, okay? Now, as my friend Liad likes to say, and why is that? It's because it's really helpful to know other people and to calm yourself down and to not be nervous, even if you don't think you're nervous. Do I look nervous right now? I don't know. I'll tell you, I am. So, some more tips real quick. Shims are faster than lockpicks. Lockpicks are cool. I got it. Great. Their doors are shit. Use shims. Okay? Get an anti-shim door or an anti-shim plate if that's you. Okay? Security guards can be jaded and annoyed, and you saw Tim. So, on an engagement, if you get caught, give them a prize. I know that sounds weird, but like you making that little business card saying, you got me, and then them turning that into their boss, ooh, that does something good for your security team. Try that. Also, if the venue is really large, you can use paper clips, Post-it notes, everything else. Sometimes I get lost, so I literally leave myself a breadcrumb trail. I don't really have a solution for this other than picking up trash. So try that. I don't know how you're going to defeat that one. And then name tagging labels to hold doors open for knobs and stuff like that. Tape. You guys have probably all done this before. Give that a try. So to summarize for you all, this is equal parts knowing your facility, doing the research, and exploiting their technology that doesn't actually work, okay? Not every assessment's going to be the same. You're going to have to feel it out. You're going to have to be willing to tell what it takes. Every challenge that you have, even that security guard kicking you out, is an asset because they thought you were gone, right? Every single thing can be used in your favor. Think about it like science. This isn't crime. I mean, kinda. It's not though. This is science. You can test and try everything again over and over. Think about why it works. If you can't answer why it works, it don't work. Okay? One more thing. This is my 4th year at GrrCON. 2016 was my first. And in that year, I pulled off a really cool stunt with our friends because Clappy was talking about teledidonics. Or we thought. I think he was actually talking about anarcho-capitalism at the last minute. And as you guys know, this was the moment that we decided to rain dick glitter and big dick penises on him. And he was a really, really good sport about it. And it really helped me feel welcome in this community. It was a big moment for us. It was a big moment for me. And this guy's really heckin' cool. So I just want to point that out. Thanks, guys.